Hi, today I'm walking through the details of a procedural NPC and letter writing system that I built out in Unity. The idea was to create a system for building NPCs with memorable characteristics and specific relationships with the player, and then to write a letter based on those things. To accomplish that, we have two systems. First, we have the system which defines the NPC, and then we have a system which creates a letter based on the NPC's data. Start with the letter. The letter operates by pulling sentences from a JSON file. Each sentence is built with a purpose. There are multiple sentences in each letter. So the letters all begin with the purpose letter, defining what is the purpose of the letter itself. The second sentence is always an elaboration on the first sentence. So if the first sentence mentions that this is just an anecdote, that I want to tell you a story, the second sentence might mention gardening and be like an amusing anecdote about some kind of event that happened within the life of the NPC. The third sentence is a call to action, so if the beginning was just an anecdote, the third sentence might just be enjoy, or I hope you have a good day, or something along those lines. But if the first sentence is a job offer, then the third sentence might be, please do this task that I've explained. Each of these sentences is defined, or comes with a couple of tags. So you get an emotional state, you get a closeness level, and some are also defined with a hobby. So the emotional state for these determines what the current NPC's emotional state is, just in general. The closeness value determines how close that NPC is to you. So you might have someone who is in a pleasant emotional state and is very romantically friendly to you. And that letter would be written very differently than someone who is in an angry and emotional state and is very formal to you. All of these also combine with the hobby and the various other inputs here to create a fairly dynamic system which can be very expressive based on a lot of information about the NPCs. This also works such that it can be expanded to allow for progression over time. So perhaps a letter starts off being very pleasant and then ends up being very angry, or perhaps they become more casual over time to you, or both. All of the above generates this letter that you see here in Unity. And it generates this letter based on information stored in the NPC. You'll notice that each letter starts off with a greeting and ends with a sign-off. The greeting and sign-off are based on name values that are stored within the NPC itself. So for instance, we have here the name of the character, the name that they call themselves, so the character's name might be different from their nickname that they refer to themselves as. It also does the same with the player, where you have the player and then the nickname that this character uses for the player. These determine what is written here. So if I were to change the player's nickname, let's say to Stevie Jim, I can then generate the letter, and the letter is now in real time changed to reflect the change in emotional state, or the change in whatever data is held within the NPC. You'll also see that the closeness and the emotions are here as well as the different hobbies and various other data on the NPC, all of which is used to feed into this system, or all of which is used to feed into one form of the system or other, some of which will determines other aspects of the character beyond the character writing system or the letter writing system. But all of it is used to build out the personality of the NPC itself. The letter, as you just saw a moment ago, can be generated with a click of a button here, and it's generated with the purpose of the letter predetermined here. You can change that as necessary, and then also the NPC that this is being written from the perspective of, also which you can change at any time. So right now, if I click the right letter button, you'll get something along these lines. It'll all be signed off with number 1 and starting off with the character referring to you as Stevie Jim. If I change the NPC to be Sarah instead of Greg, then she has different nicknames. And she also might have different tones, different personalities, different emotional states, etc. Ultimately, this project was never greenlit, So none of this exists in a form that's any more playable than what you see on the screen right now, but still it was an interesting exploration of procedural character building and personality expression. And that's it for me today. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this design deep dive.